Yo, what is going on, guys? I am back with another review video. It is going to be on my EspTiger and Kovaak's control mousepad. I did only buy one out of the three, and I do want to say right off the bat that it is easily one of my favorite control pads of all time. In terms of the looks itself, you can clearly see that there is a very small design running across the pad over there, and then there is a very obvious and quite large Kovaak's logo over here. While I do think it's minimalistic and tasteful, I can clearly see that a lot of people will be very worried with this big logo over here, but you won't have to worry about it hindering your performance in game because it is completely embroidered into the pad. One of the biggest flaws I have with this pad is the size. It is 480 by 400 and all three pads run in that size, but I will say that the length is very good. The depth is always something that is very, very important to me. I completely understand that a lot of people don't want that 500 width because some desks just can't hold that amount of mouse pad, but I do think that 400 is just a tad bit too small depending on the game you play. If you play something on low sense like Apex or Warzone, it's definitely going to be very hard to vertically track in the air, or even if they're just coming over your head, it's going to be much harder just because of the shallowness of the pad. But if you play something like CS and Valorant, it's going to be perfectly fine. You'll never have to worry about running out of mouse pad space. In terms of stitching, that is something that is absolutely fantastic on this mouse pad. It is pretty much flesh with the pad itself. It's very thick and soft, and there's also no nicks anywhere in the stitching itself. Onto the surface. The surface is definitely something that is very interesting with this pad. When I first opened it up, it was very, very textured, so I did assume right off the bat that I got the speed pad by accident. Right when I started putting a mouse on it, you can immediately tell that it is definitely more control than speed. I really want to say that it is more on the control side than speed because I do kind of feel like it's not a traditional control pad like a GameSense radar, but it is not something that is perfectly in between like an Aqua Control 2. I also do feel like the glide while you're moving your mouse like this is definitely more mouse weight dependent. Really feel a difference between a ZA13C and an S2C. The biggest difference feeling that because the S2C is much denser, it definitely feels like a heavier glide, but when I use something like a ZA13C, it feels almost like a cloud. If you do have a heavier mouse, I would still suggest something just a bit lighter. Probably something between 65 and lower is definitely going to be the perfect sweet spot for this mouse pad. 70 just feels a bit too heavy for my liking. The way the glide works is the start is definitely very heavy, and then the glide is going to be obviously mouse weight dependent, but it is very smooth. And the end of a flick, or if you're stopping after tracking, it is so perfect. It's really firm, and it really feels like the mouse pad just grabs your mouse and just plants it wherever it ends. In terms of the mouse feet that I prefer on this pad, I have 4 examples that I'm going to bring up. They're going to be glass feet. It's going to be a 4 patterned feet, and then it's going to be Tiger Ice feet and core pads. So the biggest difference between all of them across the board, the 4 feet style is going to be the most irritating in my opinion. You feel all of the roughness with this pad wherever you go. It doesn't matter how little you move the mouse, how much you move, you're going to feel all of the roughness of the pad. If that is something that irritates you, then I would stay away from mouse with 4 feet designs. For me personally, it's just something that I just don't want to feel while moving my hand at all, but I do see that a lot of people do actually like that feedback that the mouse pad does give. In terms of glass skates, this is definitely going to be a toss-up between how you play and how confident you are in your aim. If you're playing something like Apex, I genuinely think that glass feet is going to be the perfect option for you because Apex is such a tracking-based game. Any pad is going to feel the same with glass feet, but about this pad, it's very, very plushy at 4mm thick, so you do actually have that option of pressing into the pad at the end of a flick, much like an Artisan X-Soft. So if you are quite confident in your ability to aim with glass feet, or if you are confident in your ability to adapt to new mouse feet, then I would definitely suggest glass skates for you. But my 2 main preferences are always going to be PTFE between Tiger Ice feet and core pads. I'm always a core pad person, but for this mouse pad specifically, I do tend to gravitate towards Tiger Ice feet in more tracking based games. Even something like Valorant, I didn't really notice a big difference in performance. The other thing with big mouse feet designs like this, where it's just 2 large feet, you're not going to feel the pad nearly as much as the 4 feet design, but you're going to feel a lot more of the control. Tracking was much easier on a 4 feet design. You just feel a lot of the pad. I have played with this pad on Valorant, CS, Apex, and Warzone, and honestly, I want to say that it performs perfect for all of them. Although this is a control pad, I definitely feel like you can still get used to it. If you're not already using a speed pad, if you're not using a Heian, a Shinnekai, an Odin Infinity, then it's going to be really easy for you to get used to. It's definitely not as heavy as something like a GameSense radar. The GameSense radar took me a little bit to get used to tracking, but for this pad, it was a breeze. Speaking of my GameSense radar, I do want to put a small comparison in here between my 2 top 3 control pads. So definitely the biggest difference is going to be the fabric itself. It's very rough to the touch. If your skin skin irritates very easily, then it's going to be a lot more difficult to get used to this pad if you don't aim with an arm sleeve. The other thing is a sizing option. The GameSense Radar comes in a 500 by 500 and a 1000 by 500, as opposed to just a 480 by 400. If you have a larger desk like me, then you're going to want to be able to take advantage of that extra space by getting more mousepad space. Another thing too is the base. This base is probably one of the better bases I've seen on mousepads. Although it is just that generic texture, it feels really good. I'm actually really impressed with how sturdy the base is with this pad. The stitching is going to be better on the Kovaak's mousepad in my opinion. I did have quite a few nicks in the pad, and it is loose on this side of my mousepad, but it is because I've had this pad for so long that I'm pretty okay that it's deteriorating just a little bit. And I would absolutely recommend this mousepad for anybody, honestly. It's just such a consistent mousepad to be used in just such a plethora of games that I'm really impressed with this. I do eventually want to get the other two pads, but for now, I'll only have a review on this pad. It was a really good experience, and I do want to say that it is now in my top 3 control pads. But yeah, that pretty much is all for the review. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next upload. Peace.
Is it movement error? Is that what that is?
Lol. I just shot right through.
Play, let's play.
That's bomb.
Open up the sky! Like butter, baby.
Thank you.
That's 3. One left standing. On the money.
Oh, nice, nice.
That's 3.
Nice. Dang.
Now we're cooking. That's 3.
I got you, you hawk. You know, get this ace. Oh. Careful now. Here. Get your ace.
Open up the sky!
Go get your ace. Don't take the kill stage. This is his ace. No!
Down and out.
Just shoot. I'm on.
Dang.
Come here. Need
Oh, nice. Nice.
Backside.
CT or
next time. Mind the heavy.
swing because they knew where I was because of the cipher.
At ease,
Oh, okay,
soldier.
one.
Out of here.
Sky's lit 39. That's it.
9 bullets.
Raise is probably full. Nice, dude.
Kobe.
The thermites on the house right now.
Hey, kill assist.
Nice.
What is happening?